Welcome to the living passion of the Christ, shared with you this day that we call Good Friday. Christians throughout the generations have wondered to themselves, why exactly is this day, when we recall the unjust death of the Messiah, good? Precisely because of the word we read in the 3rd chapter of John. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. It was evening when the disciples gathered for the Seder meal, remembering the Passover, or what we have come to know as the Last Supper. Later, he and 3 of his disciples walked to the Garden of Gethsemane.
Peter, James, John, sit here while I go and pray to my Father.
Father, if there is any way, please take this bitter cup from me. Not my will, but yours be done. The hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up. Let's go. My betrayer is near.
Here he was, Judas, one of the 12 disciples, leading a crowd of people who were carrying swords and clubs. They were eager to arrest Jesus, and Judas, the one who intended to betray Jesus, told the elders that he would give them a sign.
I will greet him with a kiss, and you know that the one I kiss is the one you should arrest. Rabbi!
Make it quick, Judas.
And with that, the crowd came to seize him. One of the men with Jesus grabbed a sword and swung it toward the slave of the high priest, slicing off his ear.
Enough!
And immediately, Jesus touched the man's ear and healed him.
Put your swords back. People who live by the sword die by the sword. Surely you realize, if I called my Father, he would send 12 legions of messengers to rescue me. But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled? We must allow the story of God's kingdom to unfold.
And after all that had happened, the disciples ran away and abandoned him. They took Jesus to the high priest, and there the chief priest, the elders, and the scribes assembled. Again the high priest asked him,
"Are you the Messiah, the Son of God?"
I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of God.
All of them condemned him as deserving death. Then they blindfolded him and continued to beat him. Afterwards, they bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Meanwhile, Peter found himself in the courtyard of the high priest. He was sitting there, warming himself by the fire.
You are one of them. You were with Jesus.
Jesus? Who is that?
This man is one of them.
I am not. Go away. Leave me alone.
She's right. You are lying. You are one of them.
Look at you. You're a Galilean just like Jesus.
I don't know what you're talking about. For the last time, I don't know this man, Jesus.
At that moment, the cock crowed for the second time. And then Peter remembered what Jesus had said to him, "Before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." And he broke down and wept. And they led him away, handing him over to Pontius Pilate.
"Are you King of the Jews?"
You have said so.
Do you not hear how many accusations they make against you?
But Jesus said nothing. His silence was so peculiar that Pilate was stunned. Since it was the festival of the Passover, there was a custom that Pilate would release one prisoner of the people's choosing. On this day, Jesus was brought to the crowds, along with Barabbas, who was a known insurrectionist.
Whom shall I release for you? Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah?
The chief priest and the elders began to stir up the crowds.
I order you to choose Barabbas!
And soon the crowd shouted,
Why? What has Jesus done? I have found nothing to sentence him to death. I will have him flogged and release him.
But the crowds, stirred up by the elders, continued.
Release Barabbas!
And after having him flogged, he commanded,
Crucify him.
Then the soldiers led him into the courtyard of the palace, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. And they crucified him. The written notice of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." People began to make fun of him.
So, you are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days? Huh.
Come down from the cross and save yourself.
They crucified 2 rebels with him, one on his right and one on his left. One of them shouted at Jesus,
Jesus, when you come into your kingdom, please remember me.
Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise.
At noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And then Jesus cried out in a loud voice,
Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani? My God, why have you forsaken me?
When Jesus knew that all was now complete, he said,
I thirst.
A bowl of sour wine was standing there. So they put a sponge full of wine on a branch of hyssop and held it to his mouth.
It is finished. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.
Jesus breathed his last. The curtain of the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood there in front of Jesus saw how he died, he said,
Surely this man was the Son of God.